We have one microphone, so we can share or project to the room, so whichever you prefer. Miss Kathy from GFWC is going to go ahead and do the introductions for us, so we'll go ahead and get started now that we have some sound going. Kathy.
Hello everybody, can everybody hear me? So we're very happy that you've come, and it took quite a bit of organization to pull this off, but here we are. I'm Kathy Cartwright with GFWC North Pinellas Women's Club. If you're not familiar with the organization, we are a total volunteer service oriented organization, so we're not the ladies who lunch. Don't get us confused with them. You might be familiar with our biggest fundraiser is Christmas Under the Oaks that is held every November on this campus. With the proceeds of that, we give it away to the community via grants, and even Women on the Way has received one of those grants this last year, I'm pretty sure. So that's how we became connected with them. Paula Blessing and I were chairs and co-chairs of our signature program called Domestic and Sexual Violence Awareness and Prevention Signature Program this last year. And so when we were getting ready to figure out what we were going to do, we started doing some research and discovered that campus abuse is quite prevalent. In fact, it's for female students, 25% of female students will suffer sexual abuse during their campus career. 53% of them will be from a significant other, and the age groups are 18 to 24 years old. So we felt compelled to include campus abuse as one of our programs for this year. So after many emails, phone calls, meetings, hurricanes, we finally have this put together, and we have an amazing panel who are all volunteers who have come to speak with us today. Tara Allen is the Student Support Advisor for Women on the Way program at Clearwater campus. She's an SPC alumni. She earned her general AA through SPC's early college program, where the support she received inspired her to pursue a career in student services. And if you ever have to put a program together, she's the one to do it. She has amazing skills. She took us in, listened to our ideas, and we were able to work with her very easily. We have Tiffiny Newton. She's the president and co-founder of IgniteHer. Through her Women Warrior program, she and her team share their stories, teach self-defense, and safe exit strategies. She's going to be doing that today. She is a survivor of emotional abuse and has just finished writing her book, Behind the Smile, available on Amazon. She owns her own independent life insurance company and has a degree in accounting and business. You didn't know this, but her Indian name is Never Sleeps. And she cares for 3 fur babies at home. Next we have Jen Clanton. She is co-owner of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Largo and is a Jiu-Jitsu Women Empowered Self-Defense Master Instructor. She is trauma-informed certified with 11 years of training in Jiu-Jitsu. She majored in psychology with a minor in criminology. She too is a domestic abuse survivor and a dog mom. Kelly Batsford is next. She's behavioral health advocate at Hope Villages. She received her undergrad in healthcare administration at SPC and then a master's in clinical mental health counseling from Walden University. She has been with Hope Villages since last June, and before that she worked at Baycare for 17 years. She was born and raised in Florida, has 2 children, many pets, and a love for nature. She too is a survivor of domestic violence. Last but not least, we have Dimitri Coleman. She is pursuing her, whoops, I skipped one. Frida Wadera is currently a domestic violence intervention specialist at the Largo Police Department. She assists victims in navigating and understanding the judicial system, so you can imagine that job, and provides training and consultation to officers at her department as well as other professionals in the community. Frida is currently the chairperson of the Pinellas County Domestic Vitality Review Team and is the former chairperson of the Pinellas County Domestic Violence Task Force. She loves Christmas. If you ever went to her office, we went to her office last Christmas time, and it was full. I mean, I thought it was at Disney World. She just loves holidays, and she decorates her office for every holiday. Okay, now I got this order. Now Dimitri is down there at the end. She is pursuing her Bachelor of Science in Human and Social Service at St. Pete College. She is a member of Women on the Way and president of NAMI on campus. She's also a certified domestic violence life coach and aims to encourage and empower others to embrace their power and make self-care a priority. So that's her panel. Just one little extra thing. After helping put this program together, I'm really in awe of all these ladies who've not only survived a horrendous, life-threatening experience, most of them that have dedicated their careers to become a beacon of hope for others, which begs the question, how did they do that? Where the hell did they find the courage to keep going? Is there a protein drink for that? So here's some mom advice. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Don't listen to that little voice in your head that says, no, I can't do that. No, not now, not ever. I will surely break out in hives and have to run to the bathroom. Don't listen to that voice. You know why? Because these ladies, they've accomplished all this. How did they do that? Nobody came and knocked on the door and said, oh, here's a pound of courage for you. No, they came from within. In their mind, they muted that voice, and they said to themselves, yes, I can, yes, I will, and yes, I must. Courage comes from within. So I hope you can listen intently and learn a lot, and enjoy our program today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the panel Q&A. So the first section is going to be general questions. Anyone is welcome to chime in and answer. So once we go through the first one, if anyone would like to share, you just raise your hand and then we'll go in order. So what message would you like to leave with students who might be learning about domestic violence for the first time?
I would say if you are learning about domestic violence for the very first time is understanding what the red flags are, what are some behaviors in narcissistic relationships, there is a cycle that happens, so make yourself aware of what's out there. Look at those relationships and see what to avoid danger, to avoid heartbreak, to avoid a lifelong of trauma, to really study what those are. And you can do that through many different resources. There are lots of books out there. There are advocacy groups. There are groups on social media. And there's all of these things that can teach you what to be aware of. And please keep that in mind. Share it with yourself, share it with friends, share it with your organization groups, just to really be aware to know what to avoid.
Anyone else like to share?
So I would like to say, as you are studying and learning more about domestic violence, the red flags, things you should look for, be sure that you are taking care of yourself, because you're going to run into, or it's possible that you could run into some situations where you're reading about domestic violence, and you may realize that you are or you have been in a domestic violence situation and didn't know it. And so the gravity of that, it could take a toll on you. Or you may realize that someone who's close to you is experiencing that situation. So as you're learning, be sure that you are taking care of yourself.
And I would also add to that, take care of yourself and trust your gut. We as people are somehow trained these days to ignore our gut reactions. And our guts tell us that something is not right. If your gut is saying something, step back and do the research, do the reflection. The other thing is that sometimes, and I'm gonna say this mostly to women, sorry guys, the Johns in the back of the room, but sometimes we're not good to each other. And someone says something about someone, that they've done something or said something that's inappropriate, and we don't believe it, or we don't support that person. We have to support one another. Someone's not going to tell us at very personal detail that someone has called me a name or hurt me in some way, just to say it. We think it's about spite. We think it's about, oh, sour grapes, that you want this person that I'm with. But in actuality, it's someone trying to give us a really big cue, and we need to be good to each other.
Just to kind of go off of that, one thing if you're new to domestic violence, it's not just physical. It can be emotional, it can be mental, it can be financial abuse, and that's something that I'm finding with women is that they're like, oh, he didn't hit me, but what else is going on in the household? And I think in your research and you reaching out to advocacy groups and stuff, you will find that you could possibly be in that relationship and it not be physical.
I would say that if anything happens, anything physical happens, or even emotional, mental, if it happens once, it will happen again, and it will continue to escalate every time that it happens. And jiu-jitsu itself teaches women and students in general how to manage the distance, and that's one of the biggest things with survival, is either being so far away from someone that they can't reach you, or being so close to someone that they can't damage you, knock you out, or strangle you, right? So right now, we're an arm's length away from each other. And if she were to reach out and try to punch me in the face, my common reaction would be this. But this gives her the exact distance that she needs to knock me out, or be at the end of the hand strangulation, right? So I either need to be so far away from her, 2 arms length, or I need to be directly in contact with her where I will be able to save myself and manage and neutralize the violence that can happen. So just kind of learning about that distance management. There's a saying in jiu-jitsu that he who manages the distance is the one who is able to walk away, right? So they manage the damage. So just kind of keep that in mind.
I'll let you keep the mic. I'll project. So next question is, how can students and the younger generation take action against domestic violence in their communities?
I would say one of the biggest things is volunteer. Find an organization, whether it's donating clothes to a nonprofit, the shelter, getting involved in law enforcement activities, learning about the advocacy groups, activities like jiu-jitsu, like really taking a part in your community and understanding what all is out there. So if you are, or family members are involved in a situation, you as an individual can help direct them to the right spot.
I would say helping stop it before it even starts. So teaching young boys, teenage boys, that this is absolutely not okay to look at a woman in a certain way, to speak to a woman in a certain way, to talk about a woman in a certain way when she's not around. Women are not machines that are here to serve. We're humans just like everybody else. And if these young boys are starting to go down that kind of path in their thinking, that needs to be stopped right away so that they don't grow into it and they don't continue to evolve with it. I would like to see more of that from the world.
Just awareness. I think just talking about it, not being afraid to talk about it, is a huge piece.
Agreed with the awareness. One great website is loveisrespect.org because it has different types of quizzes that can be taken, ways to identify what's abusive and what's not abusive, what's healthy versus healthy. One of the handouts I brought on the side table is the relationship spectrum because it kind of shows us what's that unhealthy versus healthy. Learning and being a part of your community makes all the difference. You know that when we're isolated, we're not able to help others. We're not able to understand what someone else's reality is. And you know, when we're out talking to people and someone says something inappropriate or rude, we need to call them on it. Particularly men, right? You're talking about the young boys. We need the prevention early on, but we also need to, if someone says a rude joke, is referring to a particular woman in a derogatory way, we need to call them on it. So often people are not comfortable with that and they kind of laugh it off and walk away from it. I don't walk away from any of that, because how do we change behavior? We challenge behavior. So I think that's really important when people are learning.
So as a student, my perspective is self-awareness. And I say that because as a student here, it is so easy to take on so many different advocacy points. So you've got mental health awareness, you've got disability. It's so many different things that you can put your hands to, different clubs that you can join. And so I'm not saying don't learn about domestic violence. What I am saying is you may not have the time to go on every website to get all of the information there is to know about domestic violence, but I walked around the tables and I found these little cards. Having a resource, right? Just being able to steer someone in the right direction. Sometimes that's enough because sometimes that's all you as a student can take on right now, and you should be okay with that. We cannot take on everything that's going on out here. However, we can provide a resource.
Next question is, how do you navigate the challenges of working with survivors who are not yet ready to leave their abusive relationships?
So in my role as a life coach, I often have clients who come to me who have not shared that this is why they're coming, because they're in a domestic situation, so they're in that stage of denial. And then somewhere along our journey, I find out, I discover, whether it's something they said, whether it's, I move close to them and they jerked, and I'm picking up on their body language. So it comes out that this person is in this relationship that is harming them, but they are not ready to leave. And the best thing that I can do for them is to help those individuals, whether it's male or female, to build up their self-worth, build up their self-esteem, understand that they are a person of value, because until I get a person to that point, they're not going to be able to leave.
Great points. Being respectful, listening, the things that are being shared, that we can't push someone to be ready to do something before they are personally ready, but we can be their ally. We can provide that support, provide that ear, provide information. If we have the information or the cards like you're talking about, here are some resources. Go online and take a look at this, and then maybe we could have a conversation about what you read or what you saw. Bringing up maybe movies or different things that are in the media and saying, well, what do you think about that? It's helping people to be ready when they are ready. And we have to be respectful, because that particular victim or survivor knows their life so much better than we do. And they are the experts in their own lives. And we are there to provide some guidance and some support. And when they're ready, they will be ready. And we need to be there when that time comes, but it could be something completely different. You know, for each of us, it could take years for one person and months for someone else and weeks for someone else, and being respectful of that journey.
Those are all really great points. I would also say safety plan. So if the individual is not willing to leave, you know, not only giving them that support and knowing that, knowing that you're there for them, safety plan with them. Oftentimes they don't even think about that, and they will make their situation not as bad as it really is. And so giving them those tools is key, and it might be what saves their life if it got to that point. So that's just another add-on.
I would say meeting them where they're at in their journey, because there's all different stages, and not everyone is going to start in stage 1. They may come to you at stage 4. So wherever it is that they're at, meeting them there and then helping them progress throughout. But that comes from listening and patience, and building them up in a way that they feel that they're worth getting out of it.
I love this question because of my own situation of being in a domestic violence situation. I didn't even realize I was in one. And that is the hardest reality. I came across a book, and actually someone told me, you're in a domestic violence situation. And I showed it to my abuser, and I was like, look what he's saying. And he's like, tell that guy he's on steroids. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, it's the disillusionment of your own, what's happening in your own head. And come to find out, I was the one being brainwashed into what he wanted me to be doing. And I was only okay if I went along with that. And you just don't realize it. So being hyper aware of what your gut is telling you, like you mentioned earlier, and realizing that something is off. You may not have a word for it yet, you may not understand it yet, but really being in tune with your body and what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, and deciding what to do from there, whether you're being helped financially. If you are the one that goes to the grocery store, take an extra $10 out or $20 out and start stashing it somewhere. So you have like a financial little kit to get you into a hotel for a couple of nights to get away, or whatever those little steps are, part of the safety plan. You may not be able to enact the full thing at once, but you can do the baby steps and get it ready. It took me 5 times to leave. I moved out on the 5th time. I actually moved out all 5 times, but I finally was down on the 5th time because I had everything in place. I had my to-go, I had a storage unit, I had some money stashed aside so I could be in a hotel till I figured out what to do next. You're gonna be able to determine what speed you can do it at. And for those that are around you, understanding that a space has to be created for you to be comfortable to speak about it. So it's not, you should leave. It's, how do you feel when that person's around versus another person is around? Do they make you feel uptight? Do they make you feel on edge? Do they make you feel comfortable? Like, what are those feelings, and kind of like fine-tuning that gut instinct? Because only then will you say, you know what, I don't feel right when I'm around them. And then developing that side of it.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone currently in an abusive situation who may be watching or listening to this discussion?
Please be safe. Delete your browser history. That was in my case. He stopped everything I did. If you need to have a friend collect items for you, do that. Please just be safe. Keep in mind what your abuser is doing, how they're tracking you, what they're looking at of yours, and have someone help insulate you from that so you can safely get away.
If substance abuse is part of the relationship or part of your lifestyle, whether it's drugs or alcohol, and you are being told that, oh, it was just because I was drunk or I was on the substance, or you started it because you were drunk, because you had been drinking, things like that, try to stop those behaviors so that you can clearly analyze what's going on around you. And I know especially in the college age, it's exciting. That's what, kind of everyone's doing at that time. It's new, but that can kind of convolute a lot of things that are going on in your reality. So taking a step away from that to be able to see what's really going on would be helpful for you.
Just know that you are not alone, even though you might feel like you are. There are many organizations that are here to help you. The police are your friend in this situation, so if you don't hesitate to reach out. There's all sorts of organizations. We are here to help you, so you're not alone.
Just to reiterate the safety piece. And yes, utilizing the resources that are available. Most folks don't know that they can call a domestic violence hotline and be anonymous and just talk and get some information and do a safety plan. You don't have to give any information about who you are. You can still get those resources so that it can be a safe way to do it. So, that's what I would be encouraging people to do is figure out what your resources are. Go online. The browser history is important, but most domestic violence websites have a spot that you can just exit quickly if the person comes into the room. There are safety measures put in place so that if I'm exploring, I can do it in a safe way. Yes, it's just kind of reiterating what you all have said, and I'm going to use some questions.
So oftentimes, guilt, shame, and condemnation sits on the shoulder of the person who's being abused. So I first want to say to anyone who's going through that or has gone through that, if you have thoughts that come in your mind about what you shouldn't have done and why did I do that and how did I allow him, let's go ahead and quiet those thoughts now. Let's get rid of the guilt, shame, and condemnation. Let's forgive ourselves, and let's have a good understanding that regardless of what decisions you have made, no one deserves to be abused physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, or otherwise. So that would be my first thing that I'd like to say to that person. And then second, just think about what the other ladies have said. Safety is definitely going to be your next thought process. So once I feel safe in the fact that I'm no longer guilty, I no longer sit under shame, I'm no longer condemning myself, now I'm building myself up, but I gotta be safe in the way that I do my things now.
I would just say, for anyone who doesn't understand what we mean by safe, is that if I transition in my mind that I'm getting out of this relationship as soon as I can, I'm saving my money, I'm making my plan, my emotional being shifts. And my abuser notices that. And my abuser will do something to sabotage me. They will hurt me, they will take away my car, they will destroy my books for class or my computer for class. See, books, I'm old school, right? The computer for class, right? They'll do something. So when I'm making that decision to leave, I have to do it in a way that is safe, and I have to become a good actress. Yes, I am empowered and I understand what my capacity is now, and I understand what I need to do. I have to do it safely.
Now we're going to move into some panelist-specific questions. So we're going to kind of do one per person for the sake of time. So the first one is for Ms. Tiffiny Newton. Can you share what inspired you to start IgniteHer and the mission behind your organization?
Absolutely. Thank you. It honestly took me about 5 years after getting out of my domestic violence situation to even start talking about it. That's how full of shame and guilt that I felt of what I had gone through and how hard I was on myself. But once I did start talking with people, their response back was, is you need to tell more people. You need to talk more about this. You need to share with more people about your experience and how you could help them realize the situation that they're in. I went to an entrepreneur brunch and met someone that helps people start nonprofits. And that, I think, was God's sign to me that I needed to start. So in doing that, because my nonprofit is not backed by large foundations or donations and all that kind of stuff to this point, how could I help someone today? How could I help impact, primarily women? I know men deal with this too, but my focus is primarily women because it's my situation that I'm familiar with. And teaching them how to get out safely, safe exit strategies, and bringing in experts like Jen into a class to help teach how to get out of it safely. I was punched, spit on, shoved in a corner, thrown down, my stuff broken, and that's just the physical side, let alone all the financial and emotional and religious stuff that I went through. But how do you help someone feel better about themselves? And that is how I felt I could kind of carve a niche in, is the empowerment and awareness side, and then be able to, get local resources to people, and really dive in. That's their specialty. It's not my specialty, but I'm really good at being able to drive people to the right resources. So that's kind of where we started and are going to continue to grow.
Thank you. The next question is for Jen Clanton. Can you explain the philosophy behind Women Empowered and how it specifically helps women who have experienced domestic violence?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Women Empowered program focuses primarily on the 20 most common threat scenarios known to face women based on survivor and police reports. So kind of in general, women are attacked in the same fashions over and over again. And so the program itself shows how to defend and escape and survive those most common attacks. And that program is able to be graduated within 6 to 8 months. Probably the thing that breaks my heart the most is that for some reason, and I still haven't figured this quite out yet, but in our culture, women think that they can take one self-defense class and they will be good for the rest of their lives, not understanding that there are dangers from every body position that you can possibly be in. Whether you're laying down, you're sitting down, you're up against a wall, you're walking, are they behind you, in front of you, beside you? All these different things that one class will not show you how to survive. It might show you that one thing, but it won't show you all the rest, right? And so believing in yourself to continue that training, to get to the point where you feel sufficient from every single position, that's the goal of Women Empowered and the self-defense aspect of empowering women, is making sure that they continue to train. And 6 to 8 months is really not that long, right? But that would be my biggest thing, is to start training and continue training until you are able to answer, what if he does this? What if your brother is asking you, yeah, well, what if I do this? If you say you don't know, you need to continue to train. If you are walking somewhere, or you're around a situation and you feel fear, that's because your body is telling you that you don't quite know how to handle this situation. And being able to get to that point where you're like, yeah, I'm cool no matter where I'm at, because I can figure this out, and I've been there before. I have felt the uncomfortable, and I've learned how to be comfortable in that uncomfortable. That's what Jiu-Jitsu teaches us, so that we can defend, survive, and escape.
Thank you.
We had a student in the chat said, she's so right, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu saved my life.
The next question is going to be for Kelly Batsford. Could you describe the range of services that Hope Villages provides for survivors of domestic violence?
Yes, so Hope Villages, we have, at our outreach center, we offer mental health support, which would be me. We have case management, which would be like if you were in the need of moving and housing, transportation, jobs. Case management covers so many things, so we have that. We also have legal advocates there that can help with injunctions, which are basically restraining orders. They'll go through the entire packet with you. They will also sit in court with you. They can't speak, but they're there for that support. We also have a Peacemakers program, which goes into elementary school, and they teach children to use their words and not their hands. And we have a middle school and high school advocate as well that does the same for teen dating and teen violence as well. We do have a shelter for women that women and children that end up needing the shelter services. We also have a food bank that's not very far from our outreach center. And I think I'm forgetting something. We also do housing. We do have some apartment complexes for low-income housing as well.
Thank you. The next question is for Frida Wadera. Let's see. Can you discuss the importance of community involvement in combating domestic violence and supporting survivors?
Yes. Kind of been my life's work is to get the community involved. So, in order for domestic violence to be addressed, the community has to understand what it is. The community has to be ready to step forward. The community has to have resources. So, it's important for organizations to get together and talk to each other. For example, we have the Pinellas Coalition to End Domestic Violence. So a variety of organizations that get together toward a similar goal. If someone is coming to an individual or an organization and asking for something and the rest of the community is not on board, we have failed that individual. Because there's no way for us to address this alone. You know, this is absolutely a societal issue and it's a societal solution. And every one of us has a part in that. I could go on for days, but I will not. Because we don't have days.
The next question is from Ms. Demetria Coleman. Can you share a success story or significant learning experience you've had while working with domestic violence survivors?
Right, so let's see, I had a client who I know what I want to say. Just every time I think about her, it's a you know, it goes right here. But she was a single mom, such as myself. And when I encountered her, her life coaching was supposed to be just life coaching, just life skills. But as she and I talked, she's one of those clients that I realized did not only have a past of domestic violence, but it was active. She was currently in a domestic situation. And so everything we talked about, since she lived out of state, so we were doing all of our sessions via Zoom. So everything that we talked about, I had to be very calculated in how I talked to her. Because every time I see her on the camera, I notice this for those of you all who can see me. Did you all see that subtlety there? I'm talking to her, she's talking to me, but there's somebody in the background who is standing behind her screen, giving her, you know, all of these motions and saying little things to her whenever I try to encourage her and empower her. You know, there were times where I would hear, stupid. You are so stupid. Don't believe a word she's saying, right? So I really had to learn how to navigate those situations and be creative to get her out of the house so that we would be able to have some sessions where she could talk to me. And when I say when we got her out of the house, we hit it hard because he was not there. So if I only had 30 minutes, we would work that safety plan, figure out, listen, what do you already have that you can pull together? What have you already pulled together? Okay, we're on day 3 of the safety plan. Where are you now? What are you doing? Have you already taken it back to your friend's house? Okay, make sure we get it there. And then when we would go back to her being in the house, once again being calculated, I'd have to remember not to slip up and talk about a safety plan. I'd have to remember not to slip up, and even though I see her, with her eyes looking at him and, things of that nature, I see her scrunching because she doesn't know he's gonna hit her. There were days when he was doing this to her. I would have to make sure that I didn't let that bother me. I have to make sure I was calculated in what I said. So once again, that was an experience. It taught me a lot. It taught me how to, number one, take my emotion out of it. Up to that point, I guarantee you there were times when the client cried, I cried. And I'm not saying that I don't ever cry, but what I'm saying is I couldn't cry for that client. And there are going to be some times where you just cannot be emotional. There are going to be some times where there are some things that you want to address that you cannot address. And we've got to have, the discernment to know when. So sorry for being so long, but that one really touches my heart.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up the floor for any student questions, or Ms. Crumbly, are there any questions in the chat? If anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you'd like to ask a question, now is the time for that. Nothing in the chat? Okay. So at this time, we're going to start. Yes? I'll be bringing the microphone here.
Hello, my name is Jasmine, and my question to you guys is domestic violence. Like, I studied a bit since I study psychology, and I've noticed that domestic violence is like a cycle. And so if you see it, you have a higher chance of being in a situation like that. So what would you say to like younger generations who might have either witnessed that or just seen situations like that, and empowering them to feel strong enough to not repeat the cycle?
Who would like to answer?
So I do see a lot of younger women, and it is generational at sometimes, right? So it's very difficult for them growing up and seeing that situation, and now they find themselves in a similar situation, or they're so afraid of getting into a relationship because of what they've seen. So working with them is not only on breaking that generational cycle, whether it's through self-esteem work or self-confidence work, that kind of thing. Oftentimes it's cultural, and it's very difficult to break your culture. And if your culture says we sweep it under the rug and that's what you were taught, how do you break that? Because oftentimes when you do that, you try to step out and be different and not go through the same thing that you've witnessed, you're isolated from the family. And so working with these individuals, I found it is very difficult for them to step away, but the younger generation is saying, I've seen this. Not only did I see it with my mom and my dad, my aunts and my uncles, my grandma, my grandpa, I don't want this. So it's building community, whether it's through friends or school partners or, other support groups as well, so that, because sometimes you end up isolating from that family because of those generational cycles. So a lot of the work is knowing that choosing that and choosing yourself is the best, but also the hardest situation, and then finding communities to support that.
Yes, I'd say I remember a time where things of that nature were swept under the rug almost across the board, definitely in the communities that I'm a part of. But what I'm realizing, and I absolutely love it, is that with the technological advances that we have today with social media, right? So people are hearing other people's stories. So people are starting to feel like, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, her family was like that too. Oh, her father beat her mother. And now she's in a relationship where someone's beating her, and that's the same thing that's going on with me. And she's given her testimony, and she's sharing how she is getting out of it or how she got out of it. And so while social media, it's a lot going on out there, but once again, the testimonies, a lot of times with some of the clients that I have, I will share someone else's testimony. I'll send them to someone's page, hey, go check this person out. And they'll come back and they'll say, wow, I listened to so-and-so. Matter of fact, I listened to 6 or 7 of her TikToks. And I just got to think about that, because where I was thinking I couldn't get out, now I feel like I can.
So in my personal life experience, I was raised by a single mother, and I have never met my father. I don't know his name. And I remember being in 2nd grade, and we were making Father's Day cards. And I raised my hand. I didn't even know what the word was. What is a father, and why are we making these cards? What's going on, guys? Right? Of course, the whole room erupts into laughter, and I'm like, I still don't know why we're making these cards, but okay, right? So sometimes women, single mothers, will try to protect their young daughters or their children from the life that they have previously led or that they saw their mother leading by keeping a complete absence. But they need a strong, positive male influence in their life. And I never had that growing up because it was just a complete absence of it. And because of that complete absence, I didn't understand what the dynamics were supposed to be or what was healthy between a male and a female, a father and a daughter, a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, all those things. I never got to see it. And what I did see and what I did hear was a lot of negativity. Well, that's just a man for you. That's what men do. Men will hurt you. Men will do this. They're bad. They're bad. So when I first started becoming interested in boys and men, I was treated badly for most of my life because I didn't know that that was not what was supposed to happen. I grew up thinking that men had a limited capacity for being good human beings. And so it was their capacity, their lack of capacity, that was exposing me to the treatment. But that's just what you get from men, honey. It's okay. That's, if you want a man in your life, that's what you experience. And so making sure that we as women and storytellers and future developers make sure that young girls are not thinking that this is what it is, because it's not. And saving people time and saving their lives by not telling them that that's just what it is, right? And also getting positive female influences. I was raised by a single mother, and my mother knew that she was limited with what she had, so she signed me up for the Big Sister, Big Brother program. And I had an amazing big sister. Amazing. I went through 2. The first one was too young at the time to understand her responsibility. And then the second woman that I was paired with, I'm still involved with now. And I really believe that she is who came into my life to help develop me into the dynamic that I needed to still be here today, really. So finding those positive influences, exposing them to them, and making sure that the talk and the speak that you're doing around your children, being aware that it will affect them in ways that you're not even aware of. So making sure that we're not reiterating those things.
And I think some of it too, with especially a lot of the TV shows and movies that are out now, that lends itself myself to discussions with children, you know, whether they're in elementary, middle school, high school. I was just on a Zoom meeting with an organization, and what they were talking about is how strangulation is so normalized in movies and TVs, you know, in discussions in middle school and high school. Why is that? You know, why is that so normalized? So after seeing a show, what did you feel about that? How, you know, what emotions did that evoke in you? Did you feel this is right? Did you feel this is wrong? Having those discussions, because whatever show they're watching is being talked about in school. So starting earlier, determining what's right and wrong, because we all know nowadays that line isn't as black and white as it used to be. It's fuzzy, it's grayed out, it's blurry, and really having those discussions early on. You know, how did you feel about this? P. Diddy and Cassie, what did you see? How was that wrong? What do you think is happening behind closed doors? Do you think this is, you know, he's just admitting guilt because it's seen on videotape? Like, having those open discussions, because they're already talking about it in school, and how can you be the instigator of that conversation rather than a student that they're peers with?
Thank you. Ms. Crumley, did you say there was a question in the chat?
Yes, a student said she struggled in her life because she never had a good male influence. Do you have any suggestions for prominent, positive male figures? That's a good one.
That is a good one.
I think some of there's going to be going on in the community, right, and finding strong male figures in the community. The tough thing with that is, are they going to have time to sit down and have those discussions on that? So you end up finding maybe like an Eric Thomas, or, you know, someone that goes in and talks into children. He pours into the goodness of children, that isn't on the creepy side, right? Because that is all through our community too. But really someone like an Eric Thomas, I think I listen to his stuff on podcasts, even when I'm in the gym, because he speaks so much good into anyone that hears him. So searching out people like that.
I'm gonna say someone that not really prominent, but yet, someone who's not really prominent for the ordinary person, but is related to domestic violence. His name is Casey Gwynn, and he works with the Strangulation Institute. He used to be a prosecutor in San Diego and prosecuted domestic violence cases. And then he and one of his colleagues started several organizations that are all about educating the community. And when you hear him speak, he's mesmerizing. Like, he says what we all say, and he says it in a different way, and it's absolutely powerful. So CASEYGWYNN, I think it is. And Strangulation Institute, and
They do Camp Hope.
yeah, they do, like Hope International, like there's several things that they do. So I would say him, just because we know for sure he's saying the right things.
A student also suggested to sign your boys up for Big Brothers. That's great.
Good response. So Ms. Jen, if you want to go ahead and kind of do self-defense techniques.
Sure.
That students might be able to utilize. Hopefully they never have to, but that way they're prepared. So you can kind of practice in person or in the Zoom. Kind of practice while you're watching along.
Yeah.
So.
And even just having your mind exposed to it will help. So we had planned to just show something that's very simple, and it's easy to replicate at home or here. So one of the most common threat scenarios that women face, and it's really the most common one, is simply that somebody's gonna grab you by the wrist and take you somewhere you don't wanna go, right? So either they are out in public or they're at home, they're angry at you, they're trying to control you here. And there are 7 different grips that a person can use when they're trying to drag you into isolation. So they have the standard grip 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 2-on-2, inverted grip 1-on-1, 2-on-1, or 2-on-2. And if you have bigger brothers, you've probably been in this one, right? So we don't have the time to go over all of them, but just to show you kind of the reason why we have to continue training, right? Because just in wrist grabs alone, there's 7 different types of them, right? But so the most simple one to practice now and without the mats is this standard 1-on-1, right? So if she starts pulling me, if I face her and I continue to go with her, I will continue to go with her in the room, right? But wherever she's trying to take me. So the first thing I need to do is as she's pulling me, I need to establish what we call pull base, which is where I'm making an anchor with my back leg and I'm making a door stopper with my front leg. I'm leaning my torso away from her, so it's creating this stopper, right? Right now, I'm pulled, I'm not gonna go anywhere, but I don't wanna just hang out here all day and have her have control of my wrist, right? So in order for me to get out of this wrist grab, and look, she's holding on to me pretty tightly, we're both turning red here, right? So that will tell you that she's actually pulling on me, right? So this is what it looks like one time full speed, and now I'm out, right? So instead of yanking and pulling and trying to hurt her or knee or punch or any of that, right? Pulling relies on strength. I don't have that, the person is larger than me. We're always assuming the attacker is bigger, stronger, more athletic, right? Most likely uglier as well, right? So, and if I try to hit, I have now lost my base because now I am facing and she can continue to move me, right? So in order to keep my base where I'm not going to continue to go, I shuffle forward against intuition just a tiny little bit. And now instead of pulling, I'm pushing my elbow towards her elbow, which created this impossible angle. Her fingers melt like butter and she can't hold on to me anymore, okay? So everybody could kind of stand up and you can just kind of practice this with either your neighbor or just by yourself, it's totally fine. So we're here, we're gonna pretend that we're being pulled in whichever direction you're being pulled. Yeah, great, perfect, yep. And we're gonna face this way. Yes, perfect, yep. Now, we're gonna have this heavy leg. We go forward and push into her like you're, yeah, see how that worked, right? You're smiling because it worked so well, right? Perfect, yeah. So just do that a couple of times with each other, pushing the elbow in and popping it out. Okay? Yeah, great, yeah. All right. The 2-on-2. So all of these standard wrist escapes, basically we're pretending that we have a cell phone in our hands and that we're answering our cell phones, right? So she blades backwards here. She's gonna start with her backhand, hello, and then now it's out, okay? With the inverted, it's a little different, but with the standards, it's bringing the elbow up and we're answering her phone. So that's the most simple one to show right now. We also have what if you're being pinned up against the wall, hands strangled on the ground, they're on top of you, they're in between your knees, all sorts of different things. On the table there's a 10-day trial, so for 10 calendar days you can come to our gym and expose yourself to the ideas of the program for free. So anybody listening or in this room, you're welcome to do that. Thank you.
Having fun, Miss Crowley? Did anyone else in the chat have any questions, or were there any other students
questions?
They just said thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for attending. So we do have some more food and refreshments if anyone would like to help themselves to seconds. We have drinks as well, different swag items, resources at the table. Please help yourself to those items. If anyone has questions in the chat or would like specific resource links, please let us know. We can send it to you. If there are no further questions, thank you everyone for attending today.
Thank you to the panel, thank you to GFWC, IgniteHer, Women on the Way. Awesome, and thank you for celebrating Women's History Month.
Yes.